Boys, it's hitting tips time in MLB 25, and I've got so many more hitting tips that I can add on to last year's hitting tips. So make sure if you guys haven't checked those out, you should probably check those out as well, because some of the points in this I will also be referencing back to last year's hitting tips. Now, I'm going to begin on a very broad scale, meaning that my tips at the start are going to be very broad. They're going to be for every type of player, every type of difficulty, and as I wean myself down through the different tips, it's going to get harder and more specific as time goes on, but it's going to get more and more that you can plug and play into your game as well. I'm going to, of course, begin off with my settings, and then we'll move forward as accordingly. So let's get straight into it. Make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button, though. I know a lot of people are going to see this video, so make sure you guys are hitting that like and subscribe button because we're almost at 3,000 subscribers at the time of recording this video. Settings. I'm not going to go over the stuff you see in every single hitting tips video because this is a different one. This is about the people who really need hitting tips. So, of course, zone buttons. We've talked about this lots before. Lots of people talk about it. The PCI anchors, where we're going to start off. The PCI anchor is something I've been toying around with, something that I've been using on GOAT difficulty. However, outside of GOAT and maybe Legend, I wouldn't mess around with the anchor too much. I think it's really good for GOAT. I start at the top and I move my PCI lower. This allows me to kind of slingshot to the top when the pitch is high, because on GOAT the ball moves so fast. Other than that, wouldn't mess around too much with anchor. I'd stay off anchor if you're a Hall of Famer below. PCI, I've been using the bat. Again, GOAT difficulty. This is kind of specific to GOAT difficulty. Don't want to see that PCI. It's really small. Otherwise, big diamonds, guys, circles. I like all those PCIs. PCI's all up to you, though. Whatever you're comfortable with, no matter the difficulty. I find for at least myself, I do like an inner on All-Star. And then Hoff and above, I typically like a smaller PCI, so like the bat or diamonds or circles only, no inner, no outer. That's what I like to use. There's all my settings. Of course, you guys can pause if you need to. I'm at 50%. I like a lower transparency. Base running, not going to get into that too much. And then we're also going to touch on, I'm going to touch on ambush now. You know, we'll do ambush now. Ambush hitting, of course, the new addition of the game. I'll hop into the game here just so you guys can see. Of course, you can ambush to either side of the plate. What does ambush do? Well, if I actually make a PCI that you can see that it's not the bat, you will see exactly what happens to my PCI. If I go to altitude, for example, you can see it's bigger on this side, even on GOAT, and it's smaller on the other side. I may have to put on another PCI, actually, so you guys can fully see it. I'll go into All-Star as well to make it a little bit more clear for you. But if you guys don't know how ambush works, basically one side of the screen, one side of the strike zone, excuse me, becomes larger on that side and smaller on the other. So you can see it's much smaller on the inside half when I anchor away and much bigger on the outside half. This is supposed to give you an advantage if you're somebody who's good at guessing pitches. For me personally, while I've toyed around with ambush, I don't find it helps exit velocities. And that's the only thing I'd really say that it would be worth it for if it did. So for me personally, it makes your PCI bigger. For most people playing on All-Star Hall of Fame, this is never going to be an issue for you anyways. PCI is plenty big on All-Star. You guys don't have to be sacrificing PCI size or timing. So something people don't really talk about with ambush hitting is that it brings down not only your PCI, so if you're on the wrong side of it, so say you guess ambush inside and your PCI or the pitch is outside, the timing window becomes a legend timing window. The PCI becomes legend sized as well. So because of such a big trade-off, especially on difficulties like All-Star and even Hall of Fame, like your PCI is big enough. You guys don't need the bigger PCI, because what does it do? What does it do? It doesn't really give exit velocities, maybe the odd time. I haven't noticed it. I've played around with it on all difficulties. I find if I ambush, it actually makes me think that pitch is going there, and it may not end up there. Anyways, regardless, I would stay away from ambush personally, at least right now. We're about a week into the game, a little bit more. I would stay away from ambush. Quickly, I'd also like to just go over equipment. So I'm on Xbox Series X. So I use a Galaxy mid-rise control freak. These links are also in my Twitch channel. Go to my Twitch channel, you type in !KF, !P-rings, !controller. They all come with, so if you guys need links to them, there's links as well. I also use a purple precision ring. You guys can see it under the camera there. Purple guy, I also do have a Moco ring. I tried these out. Not my favorite. Not my favorite, so I will stick with purple precision rings. And again, Galaxy control freaks. There's a game, sir. G7 SE, I think the HE just came out. Maybe dabble with that too. I'm sure it'll be just as good. I like the Game Surf for Xbox. Never use the Thrustmaster. It's really expensive. I don't want to spend that money. If you're on PS, if you guys are a casual player, you'll be just fine with the regular controller. If you're somebody who plays Legend and maybe even GOAT, you may want to look at the Edge. It's a pretty good investment long term. Better for stick drift. You can swap out the sticks, etc., etc. But otherwise, that's kind of your controller and equipment. Let's get back into the actual playing the game. So first off, I'm going to talk about natural movement. Natural movement is something that I've kind of crafted myself as a word. But natural movement refers to what you do with your PCI before the pitch comes in. So some people like to do circles. Some people like to just sit there like this. Some people like to move the PCI here before the pitch comes in. You do whatever is natural. Natural is key because natural builds timing. Timing is, of course, what we need to hit the ball. So whatever you do pre-pitch will generate timing. For me, personally, when I'm anchoring up like this, For me, the easiest thing is I'm up here, I kind of dance around with it, and then once the pitcher is about his arms separated, I pull down. And I pull down because then I can get under the ball. Again, I can slingshot my PCI back up. If I'm playing All-Star, for example, I typically sit around the middle. I go low a bit, but I do the same thing. I just kind of go down, and then bang, I'm into the slot. I'm into my hitting timing. And again, that's that natural timing that we talk about. Influidity or something that's not very smooth for you is going to cause yourself a lot of pain. It's going to cause a lot of inconsistencies as a whole. So I would make sure you guys are focusing on just letting yourself play, first off. Second off, make sure, listen, and it's going to sound so basic, but I need you to hear me. I'm staring straight into your soul right now. Do not think about what your eyes are doing. Do not think about where your thumb is on the stick. These are two things you need to get away from if you want to be elite at this game. Every time that you pull your eyes and you go, okay, what am I thinking? You've now taken all the focus off of the pitch, off of your timing, off of where you're looking for the ball, because you're thinking about what your eyes are doing, which happens subconsciously. Your eyes will pick up the ball. We are all humans. It picks up movement. It will pick up the ball. Trust yourself and think about what this pitcher is going to throw me. If I want a sinker right now, I have to be thinking about the sinker. If I'm thinking about what my eyes are doing, all of a sudden I'm lost. I'm not thinking, bang, I'm beat. So you guys need to make sure that you guys get away from these subconscious movements. These are way too commonly overthought. It's very simple processes all in the end. Not only do I speak fast, but I also get a lot of points out really quickly. So make sure you guys, if you have to rewinds or whatever, I highly suggest you do so. But let's get into our next hitting tip. So in my opinion, after playing about a week and a half now of the game, I've gotten tons of games. I've gotten 150 BR games. I've gotten like 70 ranked games, including a lot on GOAT. I've noticed that there's kind of a new meta on higher difficulties. So if you're somebody who plays typically Hall of Fame, Legends, especially GOAT difficulty, fastball splitter is something that I'm noticing take off. And the reason why they made a change this year, I don't know what the change exactly is, but there is a change this year, and it has to do with changeups. Changeups have become a lot stronger this year. They tunnel a lot better, especially on higher difficulties. So we're starting to see the emergence of hard fastball, changeup, tunnels. So that's something that I'd really keep an eye on, especially when you're playing and also when you're pitching as well. Because I feel as if this maybe feels like so far the weakest year for sinker cutter, if you will, is the meta. Still very good, of course. Still something I'd look for in your pitchers. But I've noticed that the fastball splitter meta has taken off quite a bit, especially those hard splitters. Guys like Felix Bautista, Roger Clemens, of course, as well. Something to keep an eye on. If you've watched my videos prior, you guys know that, for example, I talk a lot about PCI placement and being ahead in the count mentally, not just a 1-0 count, for example. Talk about being ahead in the count mentally, so you have to always be thinking a pitch ahead. I want you guys to really put yourself in the opponent's shoes. You know, a lot of people sell it for fastballs, for example. I want to be thinking, okay, if this is an 0-1 count here, what can I afford to give up or give away? So for me, for example, if it's an 0-1 count and I've noticed my opponent went fastball first pitch, all of a sudden I'm in the mindset of a slider. And if I take a slider, if I want to really narrow myself down to a slider, I have to be prepared to give up the sinker. So what that means is that, look, if I get this slider, and for example, if I'm somebody who's facing Ohtani, perfect person, if I'm saying, okay, I'm going to get a slider here, I have to make sure that if that pitch is on the inside half of the plate, I take it. I have to give it up, because if I swing at it, I'm going to be late. I'm sitting slider. So I really like to get ahead of the game mentally, and especially if you find those patterns, like I talk about. Talk about patterns a lot, but if I'm able to pick up, hey, 0-1, he goes splitter, or even off speed instead of fastball, I'm able to get myself in that zone ahead, where look, even if I don't have to cheat my PCI, I can start it the same way I do always. But the best thing is that if I'm there for it, I'm not going to be caught off guard. And the best way to stop slamming your PCI in this game, which means, you know, if you slam, you're doing this, you know, you're hitting it way to the edges. The best way to stop doing that is to not panic. And panic comes from complete unpreparedness. So be prepared, be ahead of the game, pay attention, and I promise you will slam way less because you know what pitches are coming, and you know how to be calm and easy and get that PCI straight to the baseball. I'm going to talk really quickly as well, just kind of a side point about understanding the hitter that you have at the plate. So for example, we see Bo Bichette's swing, and I want to talk about swings a little bit because of course there's some hot topics around swings in the game. Bo Bichette, he has he's a decent load. In my opinion, I like Bo Bichette's load. Pause. I like Bo Bichette's load. I like what he does with his swing. Now, if we go to a guy like, let's go to Vlad Jr. Here's a good example of understanding Vladdy Jr.'s swing. So Vladdy Jr., instead of Bo Bichette, who has a quick little hip turn and then swings, he has this drawn out load, right? It takes a lot longer. Now, that's something that either people like or dislike, but you have to understand that there's a reason that you like either Vlad Jr. or you like, for example, Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle, basically no stride, just goes straight through the ball. There's a reason you like these hitters, and it's because you either like to be prepared and you either like to think that I'm going through with this motion, or you like to just be like, set, go. Now, the good thing about that is that you don't have to just like one or the other. You can like both. But understand that those guys who typically have that quicker, snappier swing like Mickey Mantle are classified as slower swing players. Now, that's the reason. I don't know why that reason. It's just been always classified. Those guys always feel like they have slower swings typically. But understanding that means you're going to get more hard pitches. With a guy like Vlad Jr., you know, you think about it, you've got these faster swings. Trey Turner, guys who start their loads earlier typically get more off-speed pitches because their swing is deemed as fast. So understanding that the swings that you have will impact the way that your pitchers or your opponents are going to pitch you is going to be actually really powerful in your game. So again, if I go through the lineup here and we go to, I mean, the Jays don't have too many notable guys. I'm sorry. Anthony Santander, for example, right? Power hitter. We've always known him as a good swing. He has an early load. This means he's going to get more off-speed pitches. Naturally, he'll get more off-speed pitches, more cutters in on the hand. They're not going to be testing him with a lot of fastballs. So understanding the cards you have is going to be really important in being able to select which pitches you try to hunt with the guys. So I'll do one more example here. George Springer. George Springer, known to have a pretty good swing in MLB The Show, but when it comes to playing him, you typically want to pound him inside because his load's pretty late. And when his load's late, they're typically their swings viewed as a little bit slower. Again, my timing's terrible, guys. I'm sorry. I've been playing GOAT difficulty all day. I've streamed 6 hours of GOAT today. So when I switch back to All-Star here, it's a little bit different. But yeah, so understanding the players' swings you have will just come through natural gameplay and understanding and talking to people. But that's going to really help you get ahead in these counts. Now, before I send you on your way, of course, I want to talk about practice drills and ways you can get better. There's not just one secret way to getting good at the game. It's all about putting all these pieces together. But the best way to consistently practice, if you want, whenever you got spare time, either play online. Play online is so important because you understand how people pitch. But let's talk about custom practice for a second. I don't want you going into custom practice. And again, if you guys don't know how to access this, LB and RB on the controller will retrospectively open the strike zone and the pitch sequences or pitch frequency. Regardless, the best way to practice, in my opinion, if you don't want to just be playing online or whatever the reason is, you want to play some offline for 10 minutes, face a guy like Ohtani who's got the meta pitches. He's got sinker, cutter, he's got fastball, sweeper. He's got all the pitches you expect to see. And then, look, I wouldn't play with this too much unless you see a pitch that you just hit really well. For example, for me, I usually don't have any issues with this cutter. I usually just eliminate the cutter. It's the pitch I hit the best. And now, some people would do this to warm up, you know, select all those zones, but this isn't the best way to practice. For me, for example, I will break it down to one pitch. Let's say, we'll do sinker for this example. Okay, Shohei Ohtani sinker. Now, when I go here and I've got George Springer, so right-handed batter, so this is the inside half. For me, the best way to practice is I do this. Take away these. So I'm left with these two, because these two are the most common two that the sinker is going to be thrown in. And what I do is I select these two. The best way to practice, in my opinion, to be able to get the layoff, react to the ball fast, and understand where the ball is in the strike zone, is to be able to select these two. Because now, all of a sudden, it's either going to miss off the plate, it's going to be a ball, it's going to be a bad swing, or it's going to be a good swing. I have both examples. I don't care about knowing that the pitch is coming in practice, because again, I want to be thinking ahead enough to be like, hey, he's going to throw me this, right? Or he's most likely going to throw me this. So again, being ahead of the game is not a bad problem, but I want to make sure that I'm able to understand the difference between a ball and a strike when I get that pitch, so I know whether I'm taking a good or bad swing. So that's something that I really like to do. I do the same thing against pitchers like Ohtani, where I'll do sweeper, for example, and throw in the cutter as well. I throw in two pitches usually. That way I just kind of get a grasp for different pitches, and I'll do the outside half. Or I'll do the same with lefties. This is the best way to practice, in my opinion. Doesn't matter the difficulty. The best thing I do suggest for difficulty, though, is if you're playing, for example, All-Star Online most of the time. I suggest going to Hoff. If you play Hoff online, I suggest going Legend. If you play Legend, I suggest going GOAT, because offline feels a little bit different. It's a little bit more predictable. So challenge yourself a little bit, makes it a little bit more online realistic. So that would be my best suggestion for practicing. Finally, just really quickly, I really like Challenge of the Week as a warm-up game. It sounds kind of dumb because, of course, you do play Rookie and all these different difficulties, but the best part is the better you do and the more you get rewarded for taking pitches is going to be allowing you to play these difficulties like Hall of Fame, Legend, GOAT. So I think that actually the practice of changing difficulties helps changing off-speeds when you go into online, right? I mean, if I'm facing a fastball on Rookie and then I get it up to Legend, and then all of a sudden I'm playing these difficulties, I go into All-Star, I've now trained myself to be able to hit on each one of those difficulties just subconsciously through warm-ups. I think that's a really good way to get warmed up and get used to changing speeds and adjusting. So boys, of course, I didn't go over everything, but the rest of the stuff is all done in my hitting tips video last year. I'll make sure to link it in the description of this video. But boys, I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of this video. I hope you learned something new today. And make sure you guys drop anything in the comments. I'll be responding to comments of any questions that you guys have. And yeah, boys, I'm out. Peace.